Hello and welcome back to Horseshoe Theory. I'm your host, Sam Animo Mackenzie, and last time, Elliott became the champion as he took on Harry and demolished him, as he managed to convince the world that Dupree is in fact the GOAT Counter-Strike player. And this time he has a new challenger. He'll be attempting to convince the world this time that Inferno has no place in the CS2 competitive map. So with that, let's introduce our challenger. In the blue corner, and here to defend Inferno's place in the world, weighing in at far more than his scrawny body used to, coming from England, not Wales, the train maker, Jack, or Nova H. And of course, our reigning champion, still weighing at far less than he used to, from some shithole in the middle of England, the king of chicken wraps, Elliott, Twitter famous AZS Griffiths.
Love a good chicken wrap, mate.
I know you do, mate. So, with that, you know, we've very clearly outlined our topic. Elliott, you're here to be the world's biggest hater, which is probably far more what you're used to than
that might be the biggest compliment I've ever received.
So let's get into it, and we'll start with you, Elliott. But let's not start just with CS2. Why should Inferno already be out of the map?
Right. Look, Valve already decided the games are too long. They've gone, you know what? 15 rounds is far too many rounds for the average Zoomer to deal with, because they're all fucking born on TikTok, and anything longer than 30 seconds is too long. So you've got three choices. You have fewer rounds, which is the one they're going with. You shorten the round timer, which nobody wants, especially anyone who likes Virtus Pro like I do. Or you remove Inferno, because Inferno is the biggest offender for save rounds, for rounds taking far too long, because everyone fucking saves. And the most exciting that map gets is when teams wait to plant the bomb so they can actually hunt properly. That's about as interesting as it gets. And you get all these highlights on Inferno that are just all per saving in Banana, because that is as exciting as the map gets. And the reason people are fatigued from watching too much Counter-Strike is because everyone fucking plays Inferno, and it just ruins great games because they just devolve into saving constantly.
Okay, so Jack, you're quite a fan of Inferno.
I like the map, I do.
You're egregious in Banana.
I'll outside now, mate.
At least on CT side.
Oh God,
yeah,
okay, sure.
I was going to say that would be terrifying, and that is terrifying, but let's not get into that.
Yeah.
You know, why does Inferno deserve its place, at least in the CSGO map pool, before we get to CS2?
I think, like, looking at history and looking at how the map plays, it is the best decider in a BO3 or a BO5. Like, so many good series have ended. Obviously, I think most famously was the Cloud9 FaZe Clan in Boston in the finals. And, you know, sure, that whole game was a fluke and they never should have won it in the first place, sure. But it's a good map. It's fun. It's open in the way that you can it rewards different play styles. You can play it like VP and play super slow, like old school Navi, like they were executing with 15 seconds left. Sure, like that's not fun to watch, but there's room for variation, right? And then you have teams like Heroic, teams like Fura used to be really good on it when Alt had hands, right, just running down mid. And it rewards different play styles. And I like that it's a sandbox in the sense that it is solved, because there is a meta way to play it, but there's also lots of other ways that you can play it that reward some teams and punish others, right? That being said,
it's already flip-flop. I'm already
no. Elliott can't win. Not this time. But well, I think having a dynamic CT side is what makes a good team great. And Inferno, in my opinion, is a map that pioneered dynamic CT sides. And
No, Cash did that well before.
I don't think Cash ever counted as a real map. Let's be real.
Of course, Cash was Cash. You had to be adaptive on the CT side, because if you didn't, you just would get executed on. And the map, like mid, was so hard to hold as a CT on Cash that you ended up having to push B or into A main to get info, to get space, because otherwise you would just lose mid and you'd be split on. Inferno, I actually think, punishes CT aggression more than most other maps.
I didn't say aggression, I said dynamic, in the sense that you could alternate your setups every round, right? You can have an early, 3B early, take banana control, you can lean towards A. Because the rotations are so long, which maybe, you know, in itself is an issue, you have to be experimentative, and you have to do different things, right? You have to change how you play each round. You can't just do, oh, molly here, you molly there, same shit banana, right? And any team that watch servers, even in pugs, anyone who has a brain is going to solve that and then know how to counter it, right? And that's why you have to keep changing. And to me, as a player and a viewer, from a tactical level, that's where I really appreciate Inferno, because you have to keep changing. You can't just go for the same pick every round. Do you know what I mean?
But I think it almost doesn't matter how you start the round, because it all ends the same. Like the T side is so formulaic that it doesn't actually matter if you start 3B and then rotate one off, because all that happens is they take brackets, they rotate off of brackets, they take banana, and then they pick a site to execute. And the CT side basically just has to guess which side it's going to be, because a lot of the time you're playing with no info, because if you take banana early, the T's just wait and they retake it later on after they've taken brackets. If you take brackets control, they'll just take banana. It's very formulaic, and people mistake a lot of util for actually being tactical, when a lot of it is very by the book. Like, you know how an Inferno round's going to go. We're just wasting a minute of like back and forth map control before they just pick a site to execute on, because the map is just so on rails.
And that's why I love running at mid.
And there's a question I want to ask, and it's because Jack raised the point of, historically it's been this and the fucking Cloud9 phase final and whatnot,
which he even admitted was a fluke.
And
for Cloud9, it's still a good final.
Yeah, it was a fluke for Cloud9.
It's a great final.
But actually, I'm gonna go on what you just said, Elliot. Right?
Yeah.
Historically, what other great maps of Inferno has there been? Because I just did a couple, a little look.
Yeah, I don't even.
We were talking.
I always think it's a bit of a misnomer. It's a bit like the 11-4 Zonic thing, where it's just a confirmation bias. Ancient has had as many, if not more, great games on it. Ancient is Well, what else should we go? Ancient hasn't been in the pool that long,
and
it's I think Ancient is the best decider map. Ancient is everything Inferno wants to be. Ancient is a mix between the sort of chaotic small site retakes of Inferno that don't actually happen anymore, even though everyone loves them, and the more open mid where you can actually split onto A. You have these, like, you have Donut, which is pretty claustrophobic, a bit like Banana. You have the B ramp, which is a bit claustrophobic, but like Banana. But you actually have a few more options as a T side than you do on Inferno. And it maintains its pace, which means teams like Ents, who love these fast hits, can be really, really aggressive and actually change the pace. It's actually extremely difficult to change the pace on Inferno. And it ends up, especially in important rounds. For example, the ESL1 Cologne, IEM Cologne 2022 final, Twists does that drop onto Mini on Nuke. On Inferno, do you think Carrigan is calling a rush in round 30? Because I don't think it's possible. I don't think you can actually rush on Inferno against util.
No, I don't think you can rush.
No, I think, it's formulaic in the sense that, if there is utility available for the CTs, it's difficult to go fast, right? But then that's where you have set pieces where you have, you throw your A exec smoke from second mid, right, and you smoke the mid volley and you just go, right? Like, they're not traditional rushes, sure, right? But they're still within the map. There is these ways to have these fast rounds. I think the issue is they're not as a Mirage B rush. Everyone knows how to do that, right? I mean, people still might not go out the window first, but they still know how to. It's the most basic, probably the first strat you learn, right?
I fucking hate it. Should be on Mirage. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Do you know what I mean? From Silver 1 to level 10, it gets called, right?
Oh yeah.
Inferno needs a bit of structure, almost, or a guy or two with some days to have these fast rounds. But that's what I like. The way I play, the way I enjoy the game, for me, is these tactical micro decisions more so than, running out and getting 3. Yeah, sure, great when it happens, right? And of course, there's a balance, and some people find that interesting, some people don't. And that's the first reference.
So
But I think Nuke has that. I think that's what Nuke is. Nuke A hits are gorgeous. Like, they require an insane level of layered utility and inch perfect timing, and you can still rush on that map. Whereas I just don't think that pace change is ever really effective more than occasionally with Tech 9s on Inferno.
But if I interject for a second, because Jack, you just said these tactical micro decisions of a couple pieces of utility, but Elliott earlier said that all of these, people mistake these util sets that get thrown as being all this tactics when actually it's just on rails because there's kind of set things you can do.
Yeah.
What's your counter to that, Jack? What about the utility usage on Inferno isn't on rails?
I think every map has that on-rails utility, right? Overpass, you smoke monster from spawn every round. You molly playground, right? That's by default. Mirage, you smoke top middle window. Do you know what I mean? Like, you flash on the pass like pimp. All these very basic things that you just do by default, right? And Inferno, sure, it probably has more nades thrown by default. I'm happy to concede that. Like the standard sets are there, and for me that's opens an interesting thing, because then later round you're nade counting. There's like further level or layer to the tactics, right? Is knowing what's utilities left. Like that's what when the nade dropping thing was added, right? Like people shit their bed. They were like, "What the fuck? You can't play Inferno. They're gonna lock you out of B, right?" Because when smokes used to be longer, you couldn't go B on Inferno, like 2014 and shit, right? You could just chain smokes, so you had to just be scrimmy and so like get right on that. We're good because you could just spray. But I would say the counter it is that within these set parameters of what you're supposed to do, there's 10, 15 variations of combinations of nades, of timings as well, which, I'd say more often than not on most maps, it's the same time, you do it by standard, whereas there's 10 nade kits to take banana control, right? And some of them include peaks, some of them include HEs, more than mollies, whatever, right? And for me, like having an arsenal of attacks and then a consequence counter attacks, so that from the T side. And there's also even more so, right? You don't take banana, sure, and then you have a retake set. You have 3 retake sets. You know what I mean? Different ways to take the same control. For me, Inferno isn't about the bomb sites. It's about how you get to them, right? And like, there's a lot more room for variation and tactical change within those areas compared to, say, like an overpass B site. You have 3 or 4 different ways to smoke it and molly and execute, right? Whereas it's pretty much the same days on either site. When you go in, it's before you get to that point, before you get that control.
But I don't think having all these different sets of util to take the same 4-meter stretch of the map doesn't really make much difference, because they're either in there or they're not, for a start. And you are always playing. I heard somebody describe like banana as a chess match, where it's a chess match with how the T's are util, how the CT's are util. That is a complete lie, because if you've ever played chess is a game of 100% information. At any point in the game, both sides know where every piece on the board is. On Inferno, you are taking banana completely blind most of the time. You don't know if the T's are in there outside of intuition or if they've made noise. You don't know if the CTs are going to take banana until you take it. You are playing without info and you're dumping all these nades. You take control. The T's then dump their nades, take it back. That was fun. Now we sit there for a minute behind the smoke and then we pick a site and execute on it. Like, I know you're saying it's not about the bomb sites, but Counter-Strike, by definition, is about the bomb sites. Like, and I know that's really fucking obvious, but it is true. Like, at some point you do actually have to enter the site, and that's where Inferno becomes just very, because there is one entrance into B unless you've like got the whole of the map to yourself, in which case you've probably won the round anyway.
Yeah.
And it does just become like, okay, we lost banana, we'll take brackets. Okay, they're fine for that, we'll take banana again. Now we just pick a site to execute, and you see one of the 4 executes you have, and then the B players get 3 kills and they lose the 3v2 retake because B is completely unretakeable. Great. That was fun. And then everyone now knows it's unretakeable, so you don't even see retakes, which is the whole thing that people thought Inferno was interesting for. They just don't happen anymore. Unfortunately, Inferno might have been interesting at one point in time, but then Astralis ruined the game, and now it's interesting for nobody. Astralis created efficient Counter-Strike, and now the game is ruined, and it's unwatchable.
Sorry. They created Counter-Strike. They didn't ruin it. They created it.
They ruined it.
But what I wanted to ask you, Elliott, is, what is you've spoke about how hard retakes are, how little they happen, how on rails certain utility sets are. What are the other problems you have with the map?
So because of
Every
how
smokes.
well, yeah, literally because of how linear the map is, at some point you have to cross 2 smokes to get into a bomb site, and everyone knows this. So more than any other map, and I cannot find this data because it was a really old piece of data, but I wrote an article on it at the time. Inferno has more kills through smoke than any other map by a significant margin. It was like 12% on some maps, 15 on others, and then it was like 24% on Inferno. So many kills happen through smokes, and I know people will say that's tactical and that what we all know it's fucking not. Like, we all know kills through smoke are a little bit of luck and a little bit of knowing the map, but you can't rely on a kill through smoke. They just happen, but they happen all the time on Inferno, and so many rounds are completely changed because the most important kill of the round is through a smoke. You try and take B, you cross CT through the smoke, you get killed from CT through it, you've dropped the bomb's now on fire, you can't win the round. So, like, you're trying to retake, there's a moto smoke, it's impossible to retake through a moto smoke, somebody spams it, you died, the round is over. Like, you get AWP'd through a wall in Banana through no fault of your own, and you die because you've also been HE'd for 13 damage, you get wall bagged for 87, your round is over. You've done nothing wrong, you've just been AWP'd through a wall. You try and take apps as a CT, you get spammed through a wall from a guy on the bridge, which for some reason is still in the fucking game, that I do not understand, because they got rid of the cash body wallbang, because it was unfair on the CTs. Somehow this one's not unfair. I don't really understand that. You try and go aggro an apps, you just die through a wall. You try and go aggro Banana, you die through a wall. You try and push B quickly, they smoke it off, kill you through a smoke. All of the time you are fighting through a smoke, or you're fighting through a wall, or you're on fire. There's nowhere to stand. And I've been told, like, when I used to complain about this, I was told I was just bad at the game and you're supposed to just not leave spawn for 20 seconds. I'm now a lot better at the game, and I still get told don't leave spawn for 20 seconds. And then guess what? I get AWP'd through a wall. Fantastic.
Okay,
That
so
was fun.
on the flip side then, Jack, what are the best things about the map other than, what you've already said about taking map control? Why is
people through walls?
No
not
idea,
vanished?
mate. No idea. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I think really it just, some of the finishes you can have and rounds, and sure they might be late, they might be, you spend a lot of time behind smoke, but these finishes, these last second rounds, they happen more often than not on Inferno compared to other maps, right? I'm sure there's some data of like some 10-second plants or whatever, right? And for me, that's some of the most hype Counter-Strike, when you're up against not just the enemies and your random teammates, but time as well, right? Like, for me, that's like the pure adrenaline, fast-paced, like, cinema gameplay, right?
Yeah. Pure adrenaline Inferno. I fucking love watching people save with 10 seconds on the clock. So much adrenaline. I can't deal with it, man.
The save thing's an interesting point, because I don't think that's a critique of the map. That's a critique of the meta right now and the economy.
Yeah, but it's more common on Inferno than any other map.
I'm happy to agree with that, but I don't think Inferno being in or out of the pool affects that. Like, that is an issue regardless, because
It helps.
the game is more efficient to save more often than not, right? I will say, and I'm interested to hear your take on this, with the new proposed utility changes in CS2, right? Obviously, smokes forming differently, being able to blow holes in the middle, all that. I see Inferno playing differently, and also less bullshit kill tree smokes and things that seem to vex you so much, right? And then nades being more useful because you can, clear smokes of them or whatever, and go in whenever you want, right? Not just when the smokes are gone. So I'd be interested to hear how you feel about that.
I kind of think teams won't waste HEs on getting rid of smokes for a few seconds when they could be using them for the free 40 damage that you're almost guaranteed if you throw it down Banana. I think HEs on Inferno more than any other map are too important to the way map control is taken that I actually don't think teams will use it. I can see a gimmick round where you smoke, you take Banana, smoke deep Banana, and then you HE it with the AWP peeking down. I could see that as a gimmick round. I don't suspect there'll be too many other... I think it'll remove some of the gimmick one-ways you get, like that Banana one-way that people AWP round.
Yeah.
That doesn't actually work anymore because teams just spam it, but it did work for a bit. I think that'll cease to exist. And that might help a little bit, but also just as long as you can still smoke the entrance to B-site and top mid, I don't think it's going to make that much difference. And also, like, the spamming through smokes thing is kind of overblown. If you spam through the middle of the smoke, you can't really see people through it. Like, it makes a little bit of a hole, but it actually makes it more risky, I suppose. So maybe you will see a little bit less spamming through smokes. I'm willing to see how it changes in CS2, but the fact they haven't even put it in the beta means either they want a really surprise reveal, or they're also a bit fucking scared of how Inferno has ruined the game.
Okay, so here we go. Here's a good point then to actually get into CS2. So you just said something I wasn't expecting you to say, Elliott. You know, you said you're willing to see how it changes. Does that mean even you think that it potentially should be in the map?
Oh, no, it definitely shouldn't. But like, I'm a realist, and I'm well aware that they are going to put it in the game because we've seen the screenshots and they've changed Graveyard. In case the game wasn't hard enough for the CTs, they've changed Graveyard so you have one place fewer to stand. So you actually just have to play in pit and pick one of your 40 head glitches and hold that for the rest of the round. I think I counted once. I think there was 19 different head glitches in pit you could hold. I'm pretty sure this is
that's tactical depth, mate.
A tactical depth. Pick one of your 19 head glitches, and you've got to try and clear them all on a retake. That's doable. But that's part of the reason. Part of the reason the A site is so unretakeable is because pit is so overpowered as a position, and nobody has any util left by the time it comes to a retake. It's actually just unclearable.
If retake is so hard, don't lose the site in the first place. That's my advice. Be better. Shoot them when they come in. Like,
you can't because you have the unserious M4 to try and hold it.
Yeah, I mean, personal skill issue, I'd say, but go off.
Yeah, it's skill issue. Try telling that to FaZe Clan at 15-11 and they're going to bring it back, unfortunately. I do think that. But I think games where Inferno isn't played in pro play are just more interesting to watch. Inferno is just very boring to watch because now teams are too efficient and they've realized the way to play Inferno is not to go for retakes. It becomes extremely boring to watch. And if CS2 is going to be the game that rejuvenates Counter-Strike, brings all these viewers back, brings all these old people back, you want to make the esport product as appealing as possible. And at the moment, Inferno is not appealing to watch.
Okay, so let's move away from Inferno, because I know which map. As much as I dislike Inferno now myself, I'll admit that it's not the map I'd take out for CS2. So I'm wondering, Jack, which one would you take out for CS2?
Out of the current map pool?
Yeah.
You can say none of them. You can just keep the map pool the same.
Yeah, you can also do that.
I mean, it's suspicious to be believed in that we're going to have seasonal map pools, right? And supposedly the pool will change to some degree after each major. I do see a season where Inferno isn't in the pool, right? And I think by consequence, we'll see a lot of teams who have pioneered this efficient style, right? Probably not be as good. Because I know you have a very strong opinion about teams who have it as their home map, and I don't know when that kind of wins.
I think it's a bad idea.
But I do think, and I'm kind of with you on that. I think it's very much like you want to be good at it.
Everyone plays it.
You want to be good at it. You don't want it to be your trademark, right? But my point is, everyone plays it, right? So you kind of have to be good at it.
Mm-hmm.
I will say
permaban it.
I will say currently, I don't think Anubis is great. Out of the rest of the pool, I really enjoy most of the maps. I think Mirage, if we're talking about solved maps that need refreshing, it's Mirage, right? And I'd say it needs
Mirage is so much deeper than Inferno, and has so many great maps on it even recently.
And I enjoy it. I'm saying out of the current pool, if there was one I had to take out, it probably would be Mirage or Anubis.
Those are
as long as fucking S2 doesn't come back, I don't really care. I just don't want to see that map played in my life.
I'd watch 100 games of Dust 2 before I watch a game of Inferno.
That's sadism, one of them. It's one of them.
Masochism.
It's masochism, man.
So I would just very quickly like to say that your take on Mirage is terrible, Jack.
That's okay.
Yeah. Oh, wait, you love Mirage. You're like the king of Mirage.
Oh, that's very kind. No, I do enjoy Mirage. My point being is that it's kind of solved.
I've got to suck up to himself.
He knows he's going to be shite at it now, though, because the fucking blame F smoke won't work. But
I use that twice off. It's fine.
Mirage actually will be quite interesting in CS2 because the Mirage meta is so
dependent on one way.
Yeah, there's so many of these one-way gimmicks which aren't going to exist. Like, you can't just sit in con over your own smoke now, which is...
I'm sure Modesty or someone will fucking find a way to do it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Modesty's going to ruin... It's going to ruin a lot of games, I think. But then I think Mirage will change more than any other map on CS2 in meta-wise because of those smokes.
But so Jack, would you keep the map pool the same?
I think like again, like we don't have timeline. Like if it comes out soon, I'd say until end of Copenhagen major, like leave it how it is. Let it be a transitional period, right? And then I think we'll have enough data to determine, okay, this map doesn't really work when the game's like this, or whatever. But I mean, I think changes to the map pool in general are pretty good, just to keep things fresh.
Yeah.
Not when they add shit maps, like canals. But
yeah, well, but Anubis is fine. I can't believe you'd be happy to get rid of Anubis. Anubis is great.
I think it's I don't know. I would say I haven't played a lot of Anubis, to be honest, and I haven't watched a lot of games on it really. So that maybe it's a bias of just not truly appreciating it, which is unlike me because I tend to nerd out about maps and utility, and I like to be quite involved in these things. But I'd say like in the pool right now, and it was probably one of the weaker maps. I think like Ancient is, like you said, it is a fucking sick map. Like that
Ancient's great.
That ends phase game in Dallas was fucking incredible. And I guess the rest of the pool, they're kind of just they're good. They're solid, right? Obviously Overpass is under pressure campaign, so I don't see that getting taken out anytime soon.
Well, people always talk about Vertigo, right? And people's problems with Vertigo, every complaint I've ever heard about Vertigo can also exist on Inferno, and people just sort of like just hand wave it. It's like, Vertigo's horrible because like there's just smoke spam for half the round. So yeah, well there is on Inferno. Yeah, but like it's Inferno, that's fine. Yeah, great, thanks. Vertigo's all retakes. Like, well, that's better than all saving. Like what? I don't like. I've never understood I do understand the hatred of Vertigo, but I don't understand it in a world where people are fine with Inferno.
Yeah. I mean,
for what it's worth, as someone who acknowledges that the problem exists on both maps, I do think Inferno is just inherently a better map. Vertigo is the map I would get rid of. I'd get rid of that in a heartbeat. I think it's actually quite bad.
I quite enjoy Vertigo. It's probably up in the list of maps that I think, like, if we were to get rid of one, it's probably up there. And I think pro consensus, apart from like Cypher, would probably agree. But I mean, that's just his fucking backyard, right?
Well, Vertigo and probably Inferno second are the map. If you are an underdog team, you get good at if you want to beat people.
Yeah, because teams don't play it a lot, so they have it. It's the decider a lot of the time, right? Or they float it because it's not a pivot ban. And yeah, I mean, like, I'm not saying like the map pool should exist to help underdogs or any of this shit. Like, just if you're gonna win, you're gonna win, right? To be better. Like at the end of the day, that's kind of that is just it, right?
Yeah.
It's not up for the devs to make the game fucking easier for you. But again, that's sort of going back to my praise for the map, right? Is you have these underdog runs, you have these teams that do miracles on these maps, right? And like, I mean, like old Tyloo, right? They would have these weird ass executes with like 4 smokes in pit, right? Which no one's done since because they're not great, but they're gimmicky and they're fun enough to win the round, right? And that exec has always been called Tyloo since then, right? Like, you can define the map because there is still room to innovate with it.
I don't think there is anymore. I don't know. It was back when Tyloo were good. Inferno wasn't fixed. And I just say, like, people have evolved and no longer do that execute because people have realized it doesn't work. And now, when we're Tyluga, like 5 years later,
Bloody hell, I'm old.
yeah, like that's what, like it's 5 years later, like, and I think it's testament to Mirage that we still get great games on Mirage, and we still see shit on Mirage that we haven't seen very often. And like Inferno, after probably 6-7 years now, is just boring. Like we just see the same round over and over again.
Okay,
and I think...
so if I can cut you off there, sorry, Elliot, do you not think that we get good Inferno games at all anymore? I mean, Game of Legion Heroic at the major was pretty good.
Game of Legion Heroic.
Well, I remember it, so it didn't count.
Semi-final of the major.
Yeah, no, I remember. I don't remember it.
Each other.
I don't really remember it. But, I mean, look, you still can have good games on Inferno. I think part of the problem with Inferno, to me, is that it feels like all of the fights are at the same range, and it feels like it doesn't reward individual skill at the same level as a map like Mirage, where players, the great players in the game have great highlights on maps like Mirage. Like, think about Cold Zero. Even if you disregard the jumping no-scope, he has the man, the myth, the beast on the B side. You think about Nico. How many highlights does he have on Mirage? Like, how many does he have on Inferno? It's significantly less. Like, the highlights in Inferno, you have things like the Hobbit in the major final. Obviously, it's Stewie 2K at the back of the site, that are all actually to do with time pressure more than they are individual brilliance. I guess there's the ROPS ace at IEM Katowice. That was pretty impressive.
50-50, that whole game. That was pretty good.
Yeah, if Nifty can get 50 kills on it, that kind of makes my point for me, I think.
Well, maybe actually, no. Sure.
Okay. Here's a point. Here's a point. Who are the players known for being good at Inferno? Vinferno, Vinny.
MSL.
It's MSL, yeah, fine. I'll take it. But yeah, it's fine. Insferno, I've heard. Who else gets told they're really good at
Inferno? Modesty Coach, he's good in general.
Freiburg.
That was a different
the king
map,
of banana. The king of banana, Freiburg. Yeah, exactly.
My God.
And then you think about who's famous for being good at like overpass? It's players like Rain and Fur, like these aggressive riflers who are good to watch.
Rain is not good. He's just ass, mate. He just can't do anything, so he runs in.
Yeah, and he was good at overpass. it's device. I think Woxic used to be famous for that as well. Like
I'm not having his name used in an argument for anything apart from saying he's shit.
He's a better player than Vinny. I can tell you that much. The players who are like, I think when he was on North, it was like Gade's best map as well. Gade's like a god at Inferno. It's like, well, exactly. That's my point. Like, it doesn't actually reward individuals in the same level, which does make it less interesting to watch. I don't think there are many great plays through individual skill on Inferno. I think the ROPS one is about as good as it's going to get, which fine. But
okay, I have two questions, one for both of you, and one for Elliot, which I'll ask first, and then whatever his answer is, Jack, you're going to argue that. So Elliot, if Inferno goes, what map would you replace it with to make a better map pool?
Let me cook. Train. It's Train, I think.
Okay, Jack, go on. Why does that make the map pool worse?
I like Train, but Train is not Train is not the fix to Inferno. You see that single Train retake ever go well? If you critique retakes, try go into a site and they're hiding behind Train, and your teammate calls, he's Train. Which fucking one?
The only reason Train retakes are bad
there's 42 ladders, so you have like a million elevations you get beat from. You can, on B site, you defend it with one guy because A site is impossible. If Banana is uncontestable and has like solved utility, Train A site, you just sit and just wait for them to run through a smoke. What the fuck is that about?
Yeah.
The only dynamic part of Train is fucking Pop Dog, and you can't do shit from there until your mates have died in Olaf anyway.
So, Train B site, I agree, is a bit of a write-off. I'm not going to argue that. Train B site...
in a Wingman, I'm with you, but in a 5v5, it's not happening.
Yeah, so Train B site's a bit of a write-off. Look, you put your worst player on B, you just, if they go B, fuck it, fine, get your free round. Not interested. INSITE Train is the best map on the game. Do not care. Do not. It's so much fun. There's so many different ways for the CTs to play it, and like you can actually rush A on Train, which you can't do on Inferno, and like you actually can rush A. There's so much room. There's so many different ways for you to like maneuver yourself, like to actually outwit and outmaneuver.
If you care about aim fights, you should be playing Redline. You don't need to be doing that in a comp game, mate. Like.
But it's not.
If being in the open and taking shots is the level of gameplay you enjoy, you should be watching COD. Like that
No.
CS is far more than just running and shooting. And Train is a run and shoot map.
Yes, yeah. No, I agree. But Counter-Strike should reward both people who can run and aim and people who prefer to think about the game. Like when you watch Flusher play Train, he's not running in the open and one-tapping people. I rewatched his ace against FaZe in the Grand Final at Katowice. There is not a misplaced bullet there, but he was not out-aiming FaZe Clan. He was out-thinking them, out-maneuvering.
An insane clutch has happened on any map. You could have done that on any map.
Yeah, but like, you're saying like Train is just a run-out and aim map, but it's really not. Like when you watch people like Flusher play it, it is more than that.
Okay, but if FaZe is more than that, then if it is more than just a choke point map or whatever you want to call it.
I mean, it really isn't more than a choke point.
No,
there are
yes,
just 3 choke points, and you have to go out. You have to pick a choke point. Like...
Okay. So the question I wanted to ask you both, in terms of like combined enjoyment of playing and enjoyment of watching, I want you to rank the current CS:GO map pool.
I do know what's in the nah.
The best to watch. Ancient. No, actually, no. I'll just combine them. Ancient number 1, Nuke number 2, Overpass 3, Mirage 4, Anubis. As you know, Anubis 4, Mirage 5, Vertigo 6, Valorant 7, and Inferno 8.
Okay. Go on, Jack.
I'm inclined to agree with Ancient first. I think it's fucking great fun. But plenty of the critiques people throw it, you can throw it Ancient as well. So there's already
wrongly.
You
can wrongly aim that Ancient if you want.
And I would say joint second, if I can do that.
Yeah.
Overpass and Inferno. And then I would do...
You know, anyone who doesn't have Nuke in their top 3, I just instantly disregard.
And then I would do
Nuke.
And I would do Nuke.
Yeah, it doesn't count. It's awful.
And then Mirage, Vertigo, Anubis.
I think Nuke is the best Counter-Strike map ever. But I just prefer Ancient on a personal level.
If you think it's so great, can you please learn the outside smokes properly?
I know the outside smokes.
There's a fucking gap every time, mate.
So I can't lie. Jack putting Inferno second kind of ruined where I was going to take it, because I was still
It's
expecting
money in the
to put it,
bank,
like 4th or 5th, and I was going to be like, so clearly you don't think it's that good.
Got to push an narrative, mate.
But so we'll just get a closing statement from both of you. We'll start with you, Jack. Obviously, you think Inferno is a historically classic map, but if they do shake up the map pool, why would it be a shame if it was Inferno that went?
Would it be? I'm kidding.
And Elliott wins again.
It would be because it has some of the best drops in souvenir packages.
And for that reason, Cobble is back.
No, I will say something, and this is like such a weird thing that people might laugh at. I think you fix a lot of Inferno's problems if the fence gate at Cubby on Long and the fence gate behind Sandbag in Banana, if you just open them and have a little alleyway between them, you fix the map, because rotations are much faster and you have far more ways to take control, right? Like you can get into Long through Banana, right? Do you know what the parts of the map I mean?
Yeah.
And those
so.
those parts of the map are literally joined in the model. They just have a gate in the way. And I think it'd be really funny if when CS2 comes out, Infinite just has that open, just so we can see what happens. Do I think it'll happen? Absolutely not.
I actually don't mind this. One of the things I used to say jokingly that I started to, gaslight myself into believing was that Underpass should have a secret underway passage to the back of B.
Yeah. Do it.
Just another entrance to B, so that you're not just fucking funneled into this like gap that is one smoke wide, and you just have to wait for the smoke so that all go through them. Like, it just feels shit. And then they have to make it so that it's almost unretakeable, because otherwise the map would be like 12-3 CT sided, because you would have to keep going through smokes all around.
I will say, just to actually answer your question, Sam. Excuse me. I think, like, if you look at like the trifecta of like maps that have defined the current era of CS, and I say current era loosely, as in maybe the past 3 years, right? It is in there, right? And I think, we've had this game for like 10, 11 years now, right? And I think I know I've spent a lot of good times on Inferno, a lot of shit times too, right? But I have great memories of games and great memories of games that I've played and watched, on that map. And for me, it's not a sand map. We've got enough of them, so it's a nice change in that regard. I don't want the entire map pool to be sepia toned. Yeah, that's my closing statement. I like some colour.
Okay, so Elliot, if we can get closing statement from you, if CS2 has a map pool change, even bearing in mind how the smokes is likely going to change the meta, why does that map pool change need to be Inferno?
Because CS2 is supposed to be the game that brings people back into Counter-Strike to watch and play it. And watching Inferno is a chore. Even people who like Inferno, I have heard recently saying watching Inferno is really difficult because it's so slow, there's so many saves, and it is just boring. And what Jack said was he has lots of great memories on Inferno playing this game. I have lots of great memories of Tony Hawk's Underground, but I'm not asking for there to be a fucking half pipe in Mirage Mid.
Yeah,
okay.
Sure. I can see it.
Yeah, all right.
I think he's on it again.
I think.
Well, we'll see, because he'll still be in the fucking game, so either way I'm going to fucking lose.
And still our champion, Elliott, Twitter famous AZS Griffiths. Jack, unfortunately, just like Harry, you fell under his...
Did better than Harry, I reckon.
Oh, yeah, Harry had a good performance.
Harry had a harder point to argue as well.
When are we having a TLC match then? Come on.
Well, that's going to be at the next meet-up, mate.
Money in the bank.
It's going to be fantastic.
Amazing.
But yeah, let us know down in the comments below about whether you think...
Winner was.
Well, yeah, your winner, but I mean, we already know the answer to that. It's not even like last time where it was slightly up for debate. But also what your thoughts are on Inferno, and should it be in the map pool or not? Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll be back with some more Horseshoe Theory bollocks at some point. I want to try and find something for Jack and Harry to go at each other with. But I've been Sam Animo Mackenzie. He's been Elliott AZS Griffiths. And he's been Jack Nova H Design Man 3000. So we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.